not going to believe this, but we reached episode 160. I'm your host, Susie Botello, and you're listening to the SBP Podcast Mobile Filmmaking. If you go to the internationalmobilefilmfestival.com website, did you know that there is a social page where we update you, usually me. I update you on things that are happening with the film festival, with the podcast, and few other little things like that. I love doing that, and I love sharing it with you. And there's no algorithm there. It's all up to you. It's your choice. You have the power to say, I want to know what's going on with the film festival. I want to know what's going on with the podcast. I want to know what's going on with, whatever else that that I do or we do. Maybe you want to know if I've written a new article or shared a new story in the blog or whatever. And if that's the case, just go there. It's where I'm updating you and giving you a few little things. You might even read something a little inspiring. I hope it's inspiring, a little positive message that I like to share in the mornings with you. So you could go there and you can find that out. And also, you know what? If you go all the way down to the bottom and click on the link that says contact, it's on the footer of each web page. Guess what else you can find? You can find a place to go and send me some feedback and let me know if you're appreciating the podcast. Also, don't forget, there's links in this episode for subscribing to the podcast newsletter, and I hope that you'll do that. All right, let's get on with the show. Fade into film. Can't wait to talk to the guys.
We are Fade into Film.
Hey everybody, we're back with the Fade into Film team. We're missing Levi and Jason on this one. They are off to their respective businesses. Levi is attending a film festival for his film Paralysis, and Jason is scoring a film, and he's got to grind. So it's the three of us. It's Ryan McDonald and Joey Min. How you doing, guys?
Doing good. Yeah. Excited to be here again, as always.
Yes.
Yeah, as always. So how many episodes have we done already of these Fade into Film things?
Would this be our fourth? Or
I think we're on 5 or 6.
Yeah, because we
now.
started with 150. So yeah, we're doing this. This is we're not quitting.
No,
so
that's
this is good. I wanted to bring up a few things that are currently in the news. But first of all, Joey, I watched your panel was that the DC Film
DC
Festival?
International Short Film Festival.
Yeah. That was awesome.
Yeah, it's also at an Alamo Draft House, and that's like it was nice. It's like a brand new built one. I guess it's only been around for a year. Place is really clean.
As opposed to the other film festivals, they're like a mess.
I mean really, it's spick and shiny,
Well, like Ryan's, you guys do yours at the what was it again? The pyramids. What was that?
That's the Perry's Egyptian Theater.
Yeah, so that's like thousands of years old. I'm sure that's not brand new.
Next year is celebrating 100 years. Yeah, coming up in May or March.
Well, that's awesome.
That's crazy. Wow, that's very nice. We do ours by the water, by the bay. Just to hop and to skip away from the SeaWorld is where ours is. So it's nice. And Ryan, you've been here, so you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Joey, congratulations on that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty. You
Steph
and
stepped it
Stephanie.
up. I didn't even know we were going until I looked at the calendar. I was like, hey, we're supposed to be doing something, huh? So
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's adventurous. You live an eventful, adventurous life.
oh man.
Where you just wake up like a movie star, and your agent tells you what you're doing for the day, and you're like, oh man.
Jeez.
Screaming fans
I
waiting for you at the door.
I would like more sleep, honestly, at this age, right?
I always say I need more sleep, and then when I'm like, oh, I get to actually go to sleep, then I can't sleep. So that's how that works. Ryan, you got something new?
Yeah, I got quite a few things. So my daughter Sophia, we've talked about her short film a few times, the Sister Jinx, and just this last week we got 3 of those wonderful emails that you get when it says you're reading it and it says congratulations, like we've selected you for said festival. So we got picked up for the Fargo Moorhead Kids Kids Festival.
Wow.
Also the International Kids in Film Festival, and then also the Smartphone Film Festival, which I believe is in Australia, was interesting. Right. And Levi's not here to share that, but like Levi's feature film was also selected for the same festival. So so Sophia has a short film gonna be in the same festival as Levi's feature film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to talk about the iPhone 15 that came out. You guys are aware of that, right?
Did it just come out?
Yeah, like people are getting them already. They got them on the 22nd.
Wow. I didn't even know.
Yeah. Oh, really?
No, I didn't actually.
Joey, you're fired. No,
Oh
I'm
my
just
gosh.
kidding.
Did they even release like a 14 like big version? Like I feel like don't they do that first before they go to 15? Like
yeah, the 14's been out already. So
Yeah, but
they
like
come
a
out with
bigger
one every
version.
year. Like a bigger version.
You know how like because I think I still have an 11 and it's like the big one, right? It's like the big version of that.
It's like the 11 Pro with like 3 lenses.
Well, I only have. Oh yeah, I do have 3 lenses.
So when you say big,
because
you mean the size of the screen?
Yeah, the size of the phone, right? Like because I thought that was just like the process where like they they come out with like the normal size one, then like
Mama Bear, Papa Bear, and Baby Bear type thing.
Yeah, kind of. I didn't even know the 15 came out, so that's good. That's crazy.
Yeah, no. Well, so they did the keynote a couple weeks ago. I think it was actually even less than 2 weeks ago where they did the keynote and they said, it's coming out on the 22nd. But they did do some announcing of the Macs and the iOS and new iOS and all that stuff. And the 15, Joey, has log capture and also the ACES color grading support.
Oh, wow.
Which is what the Academy, asked for. So that should help a lot more people get into Netflix, right, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, so long as they make a good movie, I guess.
Right.
The technology can always upgrade. But there's always got to be passion and talent behind it, I guess. Mm-hmm. I mean, I shot my movie on iPhone 6, so
yeah. Yeah, but Netflix has a very strict conditions for getting in, and that's what ACES is. Mm-hmm. And I wrote about it a few times already. But anyways, it's what the standard is for film and television. And I guess if you can't win an Academy Award shot with a phone if you don't use the ACES feature.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. But, when you record with the log format, when you it's all flat. So then what you do is you bring it into your software, and you can bring it into DaVinci or anything else. Film Convert. I don't know if you guys are aware, but Film Convert sponsors our film festival, and they created a new thing for the log capturing feature as well. And they were in our podcast and talking about how it makes your film shot with an iPhone with that log capture feature turn into your Irie film. Like it was shot with an Irie, turning it into like your $1 million film.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's because of the optics. But of course, like you and I both know, and when I say you, I mean the both of you and everyone listening, what makes a really good film is, again, the story and how you put it together, you know. But, of course, if it's on Netflix because this condition is met, I think that would be great. Oh, and also you can capture 4K at 60 frames per second, and it's got the USB-C charging cable. Yep.
That's because of the European laws, right?
Yeah. But see that, I guess they considered it, well, we'll make that a win for us because now you can capture that incredible footage and save it onto an external hard drive.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's cool.
Yeah. So
I mean,
so
all
Ryan,
the more reason now for people to take up mobile filmmaking. I mean, it seems, you know, like it's closing in the distance of the technology in terms of like just, you know, what mobile filmmaking is, or like the quality of the picture, right?
Yep.
More technical aspects to it now. So yeah, like, yeah, that sounds pretty awesome, actually.
It is awesome, but it's only going to get better. I mean, how much you wonder, like how much higher, like for the traditional, you know, Blackmagic, you know, that camera.
Mm-hmm.
So and you know, Blackmagic designed the company. They came out the following day from that keynote that talked about, you know, log capture and all that stuff in the USB-C and all that stuff, right? The very next day, they came out with their app. Surprise, we came out with a camera app. And a couple days after that, or maybe even the next day after that, they did an update to it so that when you get the iPhone 15 with the log capture, you can use their camera app along with that feature. And so they have a way for you to upload it while you're out on the field recording, so that you can upload it into their cloud system and give it to the editor at DaVinci, you know, working on DaVinci Resolve while you're still filming.
Oh.
Pretty cool, huh?
That is pretty cool, yeah.
Oh, and that camera is free. That camera app.
Oh, wow.
And so is DaVinci.
Oh, yeah, it's true. Yeah, DaVinci is free, right?
So all you need now is just to buy the iPhone 15 Pro, the Pro or the Pro Max. But the Pro has the log capture and all that too.
$2,600. I don't know.
Well, I think you need to be due for an update on your whatever phone. You said you have the 11. If you're on a plan, Verizon or one of those, right? I think it's like every 2 years that you're up for an upgrade. I don't know. They send me ads all the time. Hey, you want the new iPhone? It's like, yeah. Who wouldn't, right? No, I'm just kidding. There's a lot of people out there who have Androids, and that's the other thing. The Blackmagic camera is not Android. It's not doing that. It doesn't have an Android version yet, and who knows how long it'll take them to do that. I was told by a developer a long time ago that iPhone makes it easier to create apps, whatever system they use for that. I am not an app developer, so I don't know. But some app developers said the reason they do that is because it's easier with the iPhone stuff than it is with the Android stuff. But that was a horrendously large number of years ago, and I'm sure things have changed. But I hope they do it also for the Androids, because if you're an Android user, that sucks. You're like, hey, I want that. I want the free camera, from Blackmagic, right?
Yeah, I mean, sounds like, I mean, you know,
Interesting.
very accessible now with everything.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So are you planning on getting it, Ryan, to make your next film?
That's a great question. I think that if so I remember a day when
The iPhone 6S worked just fine.
it did, yeah. I remember a day when I was I knew high school was coming up, and I'd already been told that there was video production classes that I could take, and so I saved up my money all summer long, and I bought a video camera that was like shot on the like those not the mini DV tapes, but like it's that like half size VHS tape, and you put it in a
High eight?
VHS like adapter, right?
Yeah,
High
yeah.
8.
Yeah,
High
yeah,
8.
high 8. And so, you know, it's easy for me to nostalgically look back, and maybe 30 years from now, somebody else will have the same story about how they were once on the iPhone 11 and upgraded to the 15, and it took them all summer long to save up their money or something like that. So, you know, I still remember those days though, like buying my first camera, and then eventually I got a GL2, a Canon GL2, and that took the mini
That's
DV
the camera
tapes.
I used to have.
Yeah.
The GL2.
And I remember being in college, and I had a film professor. He was chatting about, like, we were talking about cell phones, and like they didn't have good camera apps on the cell phone, but it was like one of these days, like the thing in your pocket is going to be what you use for all your photography. And this is back when you go on vacation and you still have like just a camera that shot digital,
Yeah.
that you do like photography with. So, you know, to be honest with you, I'm hesitant to upgrade just to upgrade, and I think it's better money spent to, like, if you know you have something coming up to shoot, and then all of a sudden you have to then you start buying all the lenses, but you don't have anything to shoot. And then, you know, to be fair, like next year the 16 is going to come out, right? And the 17 and beyond. And so, so me personally, I'm probably going to sit for a minute. But at the same time, it's like there was a time where I in 2019 when I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get the 11, have to get it because of all the features, and we're gonna film something. And then, you know, we went through this pandemic thingy.
Yeah.
Recently, I've shot a couple films with my iPhone 11 thing. But if you're just a teenage kid listening to this and you're going like, I have an 11, like I need a 15, I think you could just do the 11.
Oh yeah,
Go make a
definitely,
movie.
right?
The features on this one are a game changer though. This time, usually when you go from the 11 to the 13th, the XR, the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, the 14th, none of them have had what this has. And I think it also has to do, I think there's a connection between the lightning cable, which made things slower so that you couldn't add all these features to it. But I think the word on the street basically is for filmmakers. This is a bigger deal than all the other previous phones. So if you want to make that incredible film and you don't want to keep getting apps to do certain things, it looks like the iPhone is taking over the apps. To me, it just appears like their thing is you won't need an app anymore to make a professional video. Like the video producers that got mad at me a long time ago when they were so insulted by this, those guys can start making what they would appreciate. You know what I'm saying? So instead of spending $6,000 on, another camera, they can go out and shoot weddings and make them incredible and things like that and make more profit,
Right.
that way. And most of these things, the difference between back then and now too is, Ryan, you probably remember having to digitize those mini DV tapes.
Oh,
You
yeah.
don't have to do that with a phone, and they're going, not only are they easier to to edit with, but they're also easier to distribute because a lot of the stuff is online. You know, clients want their YouTube channel so that they can embed it on their websites, you know, their videos or Vimeo or something like that. But here's another thing. This is a great segue. Special effects do better with the higher quality, you know, video that you have. And Joey.
Yes.
You do some Matrix style.
Not too much, but you know.
I mean, it could be helpful.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah. But other than visual effects, let's talk about sound effects and sound design. Joey, I'll let you lead on this because I think this is an exciting thing that a lot of us don't talk too much about. You can have a easier time with a phone, but what about sound design?
Yeah, I guess that's the thing too. When we were filming that Zorro thing, when we did that a while back, while it's easy to just, you know, like kind of, you know, run and gun with filming on a phone, one of the biggest problems that we had since I had an iPhone 11 is that, you know, there isn't a lot of ways to make the sound good, or, you know, like very crisp. So we had an external mic, obviously, and we were, I guess we were just recording audio on that differently, but to have, I think sound is very important for like videos, right? Especially like sound design, right? So sometimes people will, I feel like more often people wouldn't mind seeing like not good video, but you can't have not good audio. And I'm wording it like that specifically for it's very, you know, like the basis of that idea, right? Like
it is a fact. It's a fact. People will not put up with bad audio, even if the video is wonderful. And you should almost treat your video as a separate animal than your audio.
Right. So that's why, like, you know, sound design is very, very important. Like, because, like, obviously, since, like I said, iPhone 11, when I was using it, you know, it's not going to be as good as like a DSLR in terms of like certain things, right? So, but if I could get really clean audio, which I do a lot of sound design on my own, obviously for a lot of action stuff, you know, that's kind of very important. So like the swords clinking, and you know, since we had like since the whole idea was like low budget Zorro, and we had we had like, you know, hobby horses or like stick horses, I had to find, you know, audio of horses. I had to like sample a lot of that to just give the whole thing a bit more of a feel. And I think that's the thing too, right? Like it's just everything about it. I was like, I had to, it's funny because like, you know, for that thing, I didn't know much about like flamenco music, you know, like, you know, Spanish music and stuff like that.
I do. I grew up with that.
So yeah, so working on that short film, I, you know, I was like really finding a lot of that flamenco style guitar, you know, and that's kind of hard to find nowadays, you know. So,
wow, really?
In terms of something that had that feel of I guess for that swashbuckling style of action, you know. Yeah.
Talk to all my parents' friends. that's what they do. My mom used to put on flamenco shows.
Oh, and, wow.
And my dad, he makes guitars and mostly classical guitars, you know, but he also plays flamenco. He's one of the okay, I'm going to show off here, guys. So basically, I grew up around the flamenco music, and my mom sang it. And they had some very professional, very good flamenco dancers. Not all flamenco people are great, especially in the United States. But there are a few that are very good. And my dad's flamenco was so good that people used to fight over having him play for them to sing.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah. And I don't mean really fight. No, I mean, there was just a little blood. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, flamenco is it's that stuff, and it's got its own, you know, energy. And so but if you're thinking about it for a film like what you guys were doing, now that I'm, going on and talking about it, I can totally understand what you mean, because some of it just kind of goes on. Right. And they use it for commercials and background and things like that, but it's not really driving the action like it does in your film. So,
and that's why it's like it's a lot more involved, right? Like, even though it's just, shot on the phone and it's, sound is separate, but like that should give people more incentive to really pay attention to that side of the production of their, videos, I think.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
And there's a thing about music and film also. And I'm sorry, Jason, that you're not here for this. But, we talk about the tempo, right? Ryan, Joey, the tempo and the rhythm of a film, especially during a particular scene. And music helps drive that, I think. I think it helps with the editing when you're editing to say, I want this and that and this and that. And you're splashing, Joey, you're a cook. You know what I'm talking about, right? Mm-hmm. There's a rhythm also to cooking, and a timing. Mm-hmm. Like breakfast. Breakfast is like the most, people don't think about it. You're just cooking eggs, but you're also cooking potatoes that take longer. And as soon as those eggs are done, you got to be ready with those potatoes have to be completely done, right? Before you can get the eggs going. And there's a timing thing, and you're just going from one thing to the other, and you got to get that right. Am I making you hungry yet, guys? But yeah, sound design is pretty big. Ryan, when you did your horror film, now everybody's getting, antsy over Halloween. When you did your wolf thing, mm-hmm. how did you use sound design? How much attention did you give it?
Well, so I oftentimes kind of always just imagine the film without like a score at all. It's probably just because like budget wise, I'm not. That
was before you met Jason.
Yeah, I'm not factoring in like what I need to pay Jason to do it, right? But on in my film family that I work with, one of the other directors, cinematographer, Matt Johnson, and he's scored several of the other short films that I've been involved with. It's his band that is the like heavy rock metal band that's in like kind of death metal band that's in Married and Loving It. And so I was fortunate enough to where he put together within a few days a score for the Moon's Blood short film that I did, and he also has done some scores for other short films, like I said, that was a part of that we also shot on the iPhone. There's a series we did called The Replacement, and it's interesting again because I always imagine it without the sound, without the like music to it, because I'm thinking I'm not going to have that piece to it.
The resource.
Yeah, and then to hear the song that he puts together, and it's like, oh, like it's like the perfect marriage of those two things. And I oftentimes actually champion anytime I'm ever in a film's conversation about sound, I always try to like pinpoint moments where there was like a scene in a film where there was no sound, where there's like Hitchcock would do it, where there's just complete silence. And how like the absence of sound really like helps with suspense as well, and how you don't necessarily need music at every like
moment. The cat.
Yeah, there is a cat.
Is that your cat?
Yeah, Leo the cat. He's in when I was helping Sophia edit her short film, The Sister Jinx.
That was him.
The requirement was that any shot that had the cat in it was the take that we were going to use. So if he was in the background, that was the take that we used. Didn't mean, but and so very often I always reference kind of like the movie scenes that are movies where there's no sound at all in certain moments to make like suspense. But I mean, how do we also have that conversation without mentioning something like the opening of Drive, where like it's just the perfect song for that, like after the beginning heist part, right? And then it goes into the opening credits. or like Tangerine Dream.
Wait, Driver, Baby Driver.
Well, Baby Driver is also phenomenal in the sense that it was like each song is timed along with the movie and things. I was thinking Drive with Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
But like Baby Driver is an amazing example as well, where the music was picked ahead of time, and then when they shot it, they purposely like keyed in the right moments, the right beats to beats with the songs, right? Or when, and Tarantino's obviously the best at it, where a song for a movie can almost change the scene completely.
Pulp Fiction, one of the most famous scene to me, it's the one in the car when they blow up the guy's head and they're like, "What just happened?" But for a lot of people, it's the dance scene, with
between Thurman and John Travolta, yeah, and so there's these. So as much as sometimes I go like, "Oh, sound is secondary," or I might say that sound is like, what do you do? Like, imagine like there's a foreign film, I think it's called Rafifi, I might be saying it wrong. There's a whole like 12-minute segment where they're trying to break into this bank and it's completely silent like the entire time, and it's really tense. But on the other spectrum of that, when you have a great song with a great scene, it is dynamite in a movie.
It's epic.
And I don't know about you guys. Sometimes I'll drive around with the soundtrack of a movie on. Like, you ever drive through town listening to like the Speed soundtrack or something? You'll get to where you're going. You'll be on time too.
Yeah. No, I sometimes used to have the Mission Impossible theme going on in my head while I just do random, really normal things, just to make it exciting, like walking into the bank and dun 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 dun. Yeah, I got Mission Impossible going on. But when it comes to the sound effects, right? The added sound effects, so you can take, like some people do with frying. I don't know if you watch those unfortunately addictive reels that they're putting on Facebook.
Yeah.
With the frying pans and the people cutting bread, and oh my God. And it's like you have to turn on the sound for that, but it's so amplified.
Like the food ASMR reels.
Yeah, and you hear the sizzling and the that was me, by the way. Doing just slicing. I mean, it could be soft cheese, and they're going to add sound effects to it, and it just makes it crazy. And and I mean, they're really just showing the monotonous thing of cutting a slice of bread, but they're making it extravagant, and epic, with the sound. I just think that's a good example of, in Joey's film, he's using like styrofoam swords or something, right?
Yeah, it's from the dollar store.
And they sound like ching, ching, ching. You have all the high sound swords effects to it. And all of a sudden you don't care. You don't really even see that they're dollar store swords,
right?
Nerf guns.
I mean, because that's the point of it, right? Like I wanted. Yeah. It's the whole idea is just like it's just the image. It's the imagery, but if you have a story to tell, and I hope that people can just learn, or at least keep practicing their filmmaking with just a phone, and they shouldn't. I guess not look down upon that idea of just like, hey, if this is the only camera that I have. But then again, what you're saying with the iPhone 15, if it has all of those features already, I mean, Jesus, it's like, like if you think about it, it would be a cheaper alternative than getting like a standalone camera, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to get into filmmaking, that might be like a very good option at that point.
And I think the learning curve is less hectic, and you get to practice. That's the thing I've always said about mobile filmmaking, is that it's in your pocket. You have it. You're constantly handling your phone. You've got a few minutes here, a few minutes there to practice something, as opposed to, breaking your Canon GL2, Ryan, out of the suitcase, and attaching the battery. Oh my God, is it charged? And where's the tape? I need a blank tape. Don't want to record over something I've already shot. By the time you're done with that, you're like, yeah, whatever. But with a phone, it's just so easy to practice, you know, like Joey, like what you're saying. It's just so accessible that you're going to save time on practicing. You're going to learn how to use it, and then you're going to be able to make like I just can't wait for the feature film that will win an Oscars and, excuse my French, but piss off, you know, all the major studio film directors.
Because, like, if you think about if they could make another Blair Witch kind of like that or something, you know, I mean, that's just the idea, but, you know, something that could only be done on a phone.
The next leap would be, like, can we shoot, you know,
Right.
70 millimeter on an iPhone?
Lord of the Rings.
If we can get there, yeah.
Hey, remember how Lord of the Rings, like, that's the first time, it was like the
30
Canon
frames.
Mark
They use an
II?
Ari
For-
for that,
Not the first
for
one.
Lord of the Rings.
Oh.
Oh, I don't know if that's what they used for the first one, to be honest
Yeah.
with you.
The first one, and I think I remember wanting to get the 5D Mark II simply because they use it for the action scenes
Really?
for the first film, right?
Interesting.
And that's why I was like, oh man, I should get a Mark II. Like, you know, I didn't know the how much they used it, but they did use it, like, for a lot of the, I guess, just some of the action scenes and stuff like that. But then, you know, that's getting just
But they use the
being a gearhead
iPhone
for
4S for everything else.
it.
I just think it's, I mean, I've been watching films forever now shot with phones, but I've also been watching other films. I do have a life, guys. And and I watch and I love them all, you know, and I'm watching something, you know, that was shot with like who knows what camera on Netflix or whatever, and I'm all like, yeah, that could have been shot with a phone. You know, and it wouldn't have made a difference. You know, as far as the effect of the story and the film, the actors, you know, the acting, once you're captivated by a story, you lose track. It's one of the things that people say at our film festival a lot, you know, when they're watching these films. Like they said it about Levi's films. Yeah, I think you said it too, Joey. You know, you just forgot that you were watching a film that was shot with an iPhone.
Yeah.
You know?
Eventually, yeah, the story and the context of everything, you know, that's what really we
Yeah.
as filmmakers should be aspiring to, right? Being able to tell a story with any medium that we have.
Like, how many times have you been sick, right? And you're sitting there and you're watching films and all of a sudden you forget.
Yeah. Like that. Yeah, that's a good idea. But, you know,
Yeah.
eventually that excuse is going to go away with, like, you know, with the technology for phones being, like, getting so crazy. Like, there shouldn't, you know, you're right. Like, there shouldn't be a you know, like, producers that would get mad if somebody filmed something amazing on an iPhone, right? Because, like, it'll get there. I'm shooting vlogs with, like, Steph's phone, and it's a 14, and the cinematic mode, it looks like really nice, you know, like, in given the lighting and stuff. It's like, whoa, that looks.
Is that the one that you got the lens for?
the lens for?
That you were doing? There was one that Stephanie. Oh no, it wasn't the 14, was it? She was using a DSLR.
Mm-hmm.
And you were filming. You just got a brand new lens for it, or something?
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
that?
That's just us using, yeah, like, for our Sonys, but
Yeah.
but I'm just talking about, like, for the, you know, phone itself, like
right.
the I guess,
I'm
like,
just
the
going,
digital,
yeah, that would be something you do later with,
Yeah, it
with
would
the
be.
15 or something. The 15 also has a 48 megapixel camera, by the way, for photography. And it said it's pretty close to simulating optical zooming now too.
Oh.
To the point to where, I mean, the technology on both DSLRs and mobile phones has gotten so incredible. I have an SLR that I got when I was like a teenager. You know what I'm saying? It's digital. It's one of the first digital SLR cameras, but it still uses film. And from then to now, things have just gone like crazy. And then you have the mirrorless cameras too, which are being used for films, for movies, like big movies, you know, and they're like a handheld mirrorless camera.
Yeah, it's evolving.
It is all evolving, and it's all. But the screen at the theaters is the same size screen for the most part. It's like a 60-foot screen or something even bigger. But you can watch a film that was shot with an iPhone 4S even on one of those screens. I can tell you that as a fact. And it looks amazingly good, incredible, you know. And you can watch a film like on the 15, like Tangerine at Cannes, right? I mean, at Cannes, at Sundance on their screen. And no one even noticed until they said it at the end, you know?
Yes,
And that was 2015. We're now in 2023. That was with a 5S, with an iPhone 5S. So that was 10 ago.
Yeah, it's like, just imagine if like Aronofsky had like shot Pi with a phone instead of whatever he shot it with at the time.
Yeah, and those films, see, and what holds those films up, I mean, nobody's looking at a film that was shot in 1947 and going, oh man, the depth of field on that sucks. You know what I mean? It's like those films are still around and people are watching them and learning from them, right? And inspiring people because of the story and what was accomplished, the creativity and the just like everything, the texture and all this other stuff. With the texture, and I'm not just talking about the film part of the texture, but the texture on the story itself as a film, you know?
Yeah.
What do you guys think about, wait, I had this one other question I wanted to ask you. Should we be color grading more now? Let's talk a little bit about those effects and color.
Oh, I didn't even know how to do it. I know Christopher Nolan. I need to stop abbreviating people's names as if I'm like friends with them. But Christopher Nolan, I think he
Chris.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I say like, oh, Bob De Niro, Sam Jackson. It's like I don't know these people. Like I need to slow it down. You know, Marty Scorsese. But he shot his first independent feature film of Following, and it's in black and white, and it was purposely done in black and white, probably budgetary reasons, I'm sure. But also it was like, well, then I don't have to color grade the movie, and I thought it was interesting. I thought it was really interesting to just kind of like cut that out, you know. But lots. So I don't know. I've thought the same thing sometimes. I'm like, we could just like skip that one of the hard, like make or break moments, because a bad color grade is almost as bad as sound, right? Yeah, if it's not done right.
Yeah.
I think it's something that people should just learn. I don't think it's too.
It's part of the story.
Yeah. You know, if you like, I guess it is that slope, right? Like, how much do you want to keep putting into the elements of your film, right? But
we'll see. Yeah, and but that's kind of like, so production is a big deal. If you don't have the production, you can't have the post, right? You need the stuff.
But
right?
see, the thing is though, that's why I still, you know, like why I champion the idea of like filming on your phone, at least to have very good basics first, right? Because like color grading, sure, but I don't think that's as important as like learning how to, you know, block your subject, right? And you know, there's people that would just film stuff, and you know, they're jumping straight into like, oh, I'm making my feature, or like some crazy like, you know, long short film.
That's right.
But they can't like, there's so much negative space that's not intentional. Like, it's not even like planned. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I have this thing where I call it the first film syndrome, when people think that, or people that never made a film before think that it's easy to make a film, and they don't realize like the minute details that just make like a simple shot happen is like, there's a lot of.
What about this other aspect that also happens when you first make a film, and you're like, wow, look at the color, look at that yellow, oh my God, look how good that sounds. And you're bringing in your friends to show them that 4-second clip or whatever.
Right.
Look how cool that is, and you start to do that, and you start to fall in love with that, and you start to, it's like super candy, right?
Right.
Super sweet. And then you forget about the story part.
Yeah, and I mean that's when those people become tech heads, right?
Yeah,
Like
that's true.
I think like we like Steph and I, or we did this one project before, and it wasn't the best. I didn't like it, simply because like the person that we were working with, and it's not his fault. He was definitely a tech head, but this guy, he kind of had he wanted to shoot, and he knew the technical and the schematics of like how a camera works, but to actually shoot with it is it's another, like it's another thing, right? Like
Yeah.
he was a cam op with no direction, basically, right? Even though like I didn't really know that at the time before we worked with him. So stuff like that, like, yeah, like you could sure buy like very expensive camera, but if you don't even know how to shoot with it, like what's the point, right?
Oh, there's so many bad. I've gone to film festivals with indie filmmakers, and I'm going, gee, what did you use as a founder for the mobile film festival? And I'm like, I could tell you there are 20 films shot with a phone by someone who's never even made a film before, who's just been dreaming about it and watching a ton of films like Ryan, right? And studying every aspect of it, gets a chance to do it, and they've practiced, but they've never actually completed a film before. And the first film that they completed was shot on a phone, and it was way better than all these people that have been shooting films, and they're like, just like, it's my $50,000 camera, so I'm sure it's good. Everything that comes out of it's going to be magically good.
Yeah, actually,
but don't you think
magically delicious.
I actually hate it quite a bit when I'm watching an indie film and it is like slick looking, like like the coloring is great, and you can tell that it's kind of like what Joe was saying, like you can tell that they know technically what they're doing, but there's just no. It's just not interesting though, because they're not doing anything, like they're not pushing the medium in a way that like, there's not. You can okay, so it'd be like a horror film, right? But you can tell that they haven't watched a ton of horror films. Like they're not going deep into horror films and like referencing anything. You can't, like, I would much rather watch a film where I can go like, oh, you watched a lot of De Palma, and and it have the coloring suck, like, but at least I can go like, oh, that's just like Body Double, that's just like that. Like I much would rather have that than watch something where they think that they know horror, but really what they did, they just painted it really well.
It's like you're right, like it's not even, they're not even up to the, like they don't have their basics that they're not even pushing, like they can't push, right, like you're right, exactly. It's just well painted.
It's like you went golfing, you got the newest things, you got the Titleist, you got the Nike, but it's like, but you hit like shit. Like I like it's like the camera. That's what I mean. We were talking about the 15 a second ago, right? And it's like all the bells and whistles. At the end of the day, whoever's holding that camera in their pocket has to have passion, but passionate enough to really like study and read and understand and try.
But at the same time, I'm not saying that like I'm not knocking the people that just are the tech heads that just they can get to Sundance with their film because it because of what it is, and they're playing it safe. Like I'm not knocking that too. That makes a lot of sense. But yeah, like, but now I'm saying now in the current landscape of things, now that people can film stuff with their phones, that they don't have to risk that much money to tell like a story, just to practice, right? Like, hey, tell a story about your day, but in the best way that you can, right?
And I think the reason what drives me with that is the wasted time that you spend, too much time, practicing things just for like the candy, right? Look at this, look at that, whoa, and I see a lot of people that talking about the technology, frame rates, and all this stuff, like with the new phone. But I want those same people to get out there and start making movies.
Right.
You know, and I don't see that yet, you know, good movies, you know, good movies that they create, no bells and whistles. Your first feature film doesn't have to look like, you know, this big cinematic film. Your first short film doesn't need to look like that. It just needs to tell a good story. And I think you forget when you're creating a film that you can watch it too. And that once you're all done and you play it, you should watch it as a viewer, you know, as someone who's just, I'm watching a film.
I mean,
shouldn't you be a film you made?
Yeah, shouldn't you be your first audience though? I mean, I know
exactly.
that's not really what other people would say, but like,
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
I definitely
because I've made some of the horror films that I've been a part of, and the Moon's Blood one that I directed last year, like, or even Married and Loving It, like with some of the content that we say in the film, there's times where I'm sitting there in an audience and we're screening like Moon's Blood, where like the werewolf pops out because this girl's menstruating and whatnot, and like nobody's laughing, but there's like a couple people who are laughing, and there's like my team that's laughing. And I wonder myself, I'm like, oh man, like nobody likes it. But the reality is that like the people who do like it, like love it though. And so it's like, yeah. And then so I go like, the first person who should want to enjoy it is me, actually. And if I think it's funny, then I actually.
There has to be people to find it funny too, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like I'd rather have people who just love it more than just like more people who just like, oh yeah, it's good. Yeah, but
I think the problem comes though, Joey, when you have a whole team of people that have given sweat and blood over something, and then they look at it and they're all like, oh man, that sucks. We wasted our time with you, right? Like, Joey, you talked us into making this thing and it sucked.
Oh yeah, I'm usually the first person to say that about my own stuff. So, and I'm like, yeah, I agree with you guys. That was terrible. But that's the thing too, though, right? Like, even though I was saying about the first film syndrome too, I think it's honestly a very amazing thing that someone, if they're able to actually push through and make their first film, whether good or bad. I think that's
everybody who's out there who's ever completed a film.
Yeah.
Is already epic in my brain.
Yeah, exactly, right.
You know, because there are a gazillion people around you that start to make a film that never get, and I'm not talking about just, your neighbor down the street. I'm talking about like film directors and film, even in Hollywood. There are so many films that get started that don't go anywhere.
Well, I was... when we were shooting my film, or I think we'd finished shooting it, but we're in the editing part, and James Franco he was working on I can't remember the name of the movie, but it's basically about the making of the movie The Room. And that was coming out. That was like a big thing at the time. And I remember turning to my producing partner and now wife, Brandy, and I was like, I was starting to get really scared that, like, I was like, what if my movie's just like that? Like, where it's so bad that it's funny and I didn't mean for it to be that way, or if it's just terribly bad. And I was really nervous about that, that it could be that terrible.
Wait, The Room, the one with the mom and the kid that get kidnapped or something?
Oh, no, The Room is the
Room. Like, oh hi, Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Yeah, yeah, that one.
I did not hit her. I
did not hit her.
It's supposedly like the worst film ever created, but it has a cult following. It's so bad that it's so good.
Bad that it's good, right? Kind of thing, like Plan 9 from outer space.
It was about him as a filmmaker, right?
So
trying to make that movie.
So the James Franco version is like of them making the movie that's so terrible. But the reality is that at one point there was a movie that was called The Room that's so terrible that it has like a cult following for how bad it is. It was made in like the 90s, and I was, really nervous that when we're making Married and Loving It, I was like, is it going to be that bad? So bad that people
no.
like, because there's a scene in the James Franco version where he's in the movie where like he goes to sit down to watch the movie that they made, and everybody's like laughing at the screen and throwing their popcorn.
Yeah, I remember that. And he gives a big speech at the end. I saw that.
Yeah,
movie.
and I was like, oh man, I was terrified. I was like, what if that happens to me? Luckily, that didn't happen, but it was there though. So when we're saying about people who like, there's people who will brave enough to like to do it, and there's other people who will be too scared and they'll just, I guess, not, or sit on the couch. I call them couch warriors, but like to not go through that, that fearful time.
It's, to some people, what they think is more epic than others. It's so subjective. It's like some people look at the creation, right? Oh my God, that turned out so good. And they don't care about what it took to make it. It happens on the flip side that something was not that great, but what it took for them to even get to complete that, no matter how bad it was or whatever, was so epic that it's mind-blowing and it's inspiring anyways.
But I mean, okay, if your film did become like The Room, and people love it for the wrong reasons that you had intended, but it blew up anyways, would you still be proud or no?
I think as an individual, right?
I think
creating art, you have to kind of let it go and go move on to the next one and let people do what they're gonna do.
I think I would hope that somehow I was callous enough to enjoy that aspect of that people like loved it for the reason that I wasn't intending, but I didn't have that experience. So I still, speaking hypothetically, I would, but yeah, I mean, at the same time, it's like, but you got famous, right? Or,
right?
Or you made money.
But for all of that, but I'm not proud of how I got famous, that kind of a thing.
Intended, but
because who's that other guy? Like Neil Breen or something. I never seen his films. I've seen trailers and I've heard how he's kind of like that too, where it's like, like he makes really bad movies, but he kind of got big off of that, so he just kept on making movies. And like, I know on YouTube, like people fund him, like they give him money to keep making his movies.
There's an audience for everybody.
Right.
You just have to get out there and get seen, like this podcast. There's an audience for it, for people who are interested in you guys and what you have to say. This whole podcast is a story of its own, and each episode is like a sub-story. And the reason I'm saying this is because we're nearing the end of this episode. So to give it a world and a roundabout, one of the things that we've established in this episode is that sound is much more important, though it's not to replace the video, the visuals on your films, that you should spend, if you want to make a big impact with your film, and make it, enhance the storytelling part, you should really pay attention to your audio. And that'll make a big difference. And you can always, of course, add great music and film scores to do that. But I think just capturing great audio is more important than even adding music, which is something that may not be a resource that you can afford at the time or whatever, right? The other thing that we also established, what else did we? Oh, also the 15. If you want to make a great film, get the 15. Otherwise, just keep making films with what you got.
Watch Citizen Kane while you're signing your new T-Mobile contract.
And also the Blackmagic app, the Cam app. I talked about it in the last episode too. just go download it. It's free. It's fun to play with something new. Obviously, there's already enough tutorials out there.
A lot, I mean, yeah, like a lot of free apps to go along with the 15, right? So
yeah. I just think, yeah, that's the beauty of iPhone. There are more free apps in the iOS store than available for free, including the iMovie on your Mac. The Apple landscape, right? In the Apple world, they do give you a lot of opportunities to be creative before you have to spend $30,000 on your next piece of gear, like the new iMac.
Jeez. Do everything on that phone,
right?
$2,600.
So the technology's out there. Grab your friends. Take the weekend.
Also, congratulations to the writers on the WGA. Looks like I don't know if it's solid yet, but hopefully it is. And I hope that SAG-AFTRA also gets their stuff done.
Hope they get
their takes advantage of anybody in this industry anymore.
Yeah, there should be money for everybody, right? We should all be able to work and have a living, right?
Well, if you're gonna work in this industry, you need the time to do it. It's very hard to be flipping burgers somewhere and working in the industry and practicing and getting your experience in it.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna devote the hard work, which is involved in this industry, it's a lot of hard work, then you should be able to make a living out of it. No one's talking about being rich unless they, the executives are, but other than that, that's, the basics. But they should be getting their fair share. I mean, for God's sake, if the movie's making $1 billion in profits, spread the love, guys.
Right.
So, right. Speaking of spreading the love, say goodbye to our listeners, everybody.
All right, bye, guys.
See you guys in a couple weeks or next week.